Pointy Star here with Vio. Today we're going to be on the next episode of How to Play Yu-Gi-Oh! Today's episode being How to Make a Deck. I'm just going to show you how I personally make decks, and maybe there's other ways that all of you people make decks. This is just a simple way that I can do. You can go online and look up different deck lists doing something called net decking, or you can simply just make up your own list, just throwing cards together, or you can read into the deck online and just build a deck based off of what you believe the effects are. I'm going to show you a way to make decks based off of the second option, where you just kind of pick cards, but I'm going to show you a little bit more of an educated way, I guess. Figuring I have a little bit of background knowledge, and you guys probably do not have the same background knowledge on all of the decks that I know how to play, I figured I would just do a video on how to build, let's say, Madolches. So, the first thing I would do is open up your DevPro or your Dueling Network, like browser search bar or whatever, so you can figure out what cards to do. So first thing you do is you type in what you want to search, such as Madolche for me, and then you look at the cards that you can use in the deck. Now, you may not everybody will know what cards are good, what cards are bad, so they'll just look at the list and they'll go, okay, there's a bunch of these cards, maybe this card's good, and so what you do is you go down the list and you look at cards that you think would be good. Well, this card does not looking so good, so we're not going to click on that one. And this guy, he's looking kind of good. He's got a pretty decent attack, so we might put two of him in. In this card, he doesn't have a good attack, but he's got a good effect that lets you search for a spell, so you might put two or three of him in. And you look at this, and it says when he's normal summoned, you can get another one, but there must be another one on the field, so you don't want to use him. This one says you can search anything, so I figured that's probably a good card, right? Moving on, we've got ourselves this Angel. She says special summon a Madolche from your deck, so I figure that's probably a good card, so we might as well run 3. This card says when this card is flipped face up, target a Madolche spell or trap card in your graveyard, add that to your hand. Well, that's assuming that we're going to let our spells and traps go to the graveyard, but for now we might as well put one in just to see what happens. He says you can target another face up Madolche card, put it into your hand, and then if you do, he gains a level and attack. Well, that's requiring me to put hopefully either a monster or something back to my hand, and that's not something we want to do, so as I'm saying, we'll just move on. This one says banish a monster in your graveyard to summon a Madolche, so we like that card, we'll put 3 in. Just like this one saying when it's normal summon, special summon another, so we'll try putting 3 of those in. As you see, we have a 18 card main deck. We're moving on to extra deck cards. Since this is the main card of the deck, we'll put 3 of those into the extra just because we're starting off. And then we look at the spells. This card is a really good spell, allowing us to search and summon stuff, but it specifies only 1 take-up per turn, so we're probably only going to need 2 of those. And this field spell, since we do have this guy which searches for it, we probably are only going to need 2 of those. Now we can move on to the traps. Looking at these traps, they all have different effects, and this card we're not going to use because it says that we're going to have to inflict 300 damage. The lesson we're not going to use because there has to be Madolche in the graveyard, and our queen lady wants to have Madolches in the grave. So we're not going to use lesson, we're not going to use the waltz. Moving on to the last 3. We've got ourselves Knights, T-Break, and Palooza. This Palooza looks kind of good since we're running so many Madolches, we might as well put 1 or 2 of those in the deck. And now we're looking at T-Break and Knights. T-Break says if you have no monsters in your graveyard, negate the activation of a spell or trap, and if you do, return it to the hand. Control Pudding Cess, you can destroy a card. Well, since these 2 cards, and just like this one saying negate the when your opponent, or when a monster effect is activated, if you have no monsters in your graveyard, negate the activation, and if you control Pudding Cess, shuffle a card. Well, since these both work with Pudding Cess, we might as well try the Pudding Cess in the deck. So we'll go back up to the top and put 1 in, and maybe we'll run 2 of these and 1 of these in the deck. Looking at the deck, we're running 28 cards and they're all Madolche cards. We're going to move on just to keep putting cards in. We'll try some basic cards like Pot of Duality because that's just a really good card, letting you get the cards that you need. Maybe Mystical Space Typhoon. Trying 3 of those to try and just, pop cards. We'll try the maybe Dark Hole since mass removal is always a good thing. Maybe the Book of Moon because that's just a good card in general, so why don't we try that too? We've got ourselves plenty of spells. We could obviously be running more, like the potential of some cards such as the Infernal Reckless Summon and such, but we're just going to call that good for now. We'll click the little sort button so we can see what this is, and we'll move on to other traps that you can run. Some really good traps I would suggest as compulsory as evacuation device, just because being able to bounce cards is really nice. And since we're just going to throw in some limited cards, we might as well do the bottomless trap hole. maybe the Solemn Warning. And since we're just using all these, we might as well just use the Torrential Tribute, just because since they're all limited, we had 4 spaces, why not? Looking at this deck, there might be some cards in here that we don't like, but we also could start running more traps. Since this is just rough draft stage, we'll try ourselves some Mirror Forces, since I know that's a good card. Maybe Dimensional Prison. That's also a really good card, I've heard. Maybe some other cards we want to use. Maybe Fiendish Chain. That's a really good card. We might stick 3 in there for now. And just thinking of other cards. What are some other cards you could run in the deck? Well, you can try Effect Veiler if you want to. So why don't we just stick some Effect Veilers in there? I heard you can use Trag in there, right? So Tragodia, we'll put 2 of those in. Other good cards, Max C. Put in 2 Max Cs. Or just stick in 3 for now. And then we can just pretty much call that good. Now, if you're looking at this deck, nobody in the right mind is going to just go, oh, 55 cards, oh, look at all this, yep, we're good. No. So what the next step is to go through the deck and decide what you think is not going to be necessary. Looking through the deck, we look at this, and we can establish, just by looking at the card effects, that the field is going to be summoned up and stuff, but we're going to probably try and go into XC, since none of them really have any kind of strong attack. Besides this guy. And since we're not going to want Madolches to attack him, we're probably just going to take him out in general, since there's no real need for him. Looking at other things about this deck, this card right here just is not really helping us, because if we use this card, then we won't be able to get the effect of our Knight or T-Break off. So we're just going to have to take out those Max Cs. Maybe we put them in the side deck for later, since, we could side those cards out, but just focusing on that. And now we're at 50 cards. The goal is to get to 10. Or 40, sorry. So we're going to go from subtract 10. So when we're looking at this list, we go, okay, what else do we not need? Well, we're probably not going to want to put these spells and traps back to the deck or to your hand like this, because we're going to want to put them back with the Queen. So we're probably not going to need that made. And then figuring what else we're going to probably not need, we're probably not going to need this Effect Veiler, just because we have the Madolche Knights, which will also negate effects. Only this will stop this, so we can take that out. Also, we have the Fiendish Chain, which will, get rid of the need for that card. Moving on with this little mini, profile, you could say. We look at it, we're at 46 cards, which is really good, figuring we're almost there. Now, sometimes you're going to want to finish the extra deck, because cards like the MX Saber Invoker will also make it so we can decide what we need. So when looking at this list, we realize this card is probably going to summon this guy, and this guy's going to banish herself. So that means we're going to want to get her back from the banish pile. So we might want to use Leviair, the Sea Dragon. We'll use 2 of those since we have 3 of these, and I have a feeling they'll probably get banished a lot. And then another card we could use, MX Saber Invoker. This card is really good with this Messenger Lotto, but figuring that we're going to be using this guy a lot, and we're probably only going to need 2 of these, we can take out one of those. Also looking at this, since all of these guys go back to the deck except for these 2, we're probably not going to want to run those 2. Looking at our deck again, we are at 43 cards. We only need to lose 3 cards. So if we're looking at this and we're like, oh man, we just got to take out 3 cards, what could we possibly take out? Well, as I said, let's try and finish the extra deck and see what we can do. An easy way to do this, as I do, is I go to Monsters. Generally, most of the game online and such let you narrow it down by monsters, XYZs, and then type in a level. And I personally prefer Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro or Dev Pro, because I find it just a lot smoother, faster, more efficient. Everything's good about it, in my opinion. And so we'll just go down the list. What are some good cards you could use? You could try Gemknight Pearl, because he's an Earth type. He works with the other ones. Synergy! Moving on, we could do some other things, like maybe Utopia, or, well, there's just so many different cards. Let's see. Keep looking, keep looking. We've got ourselves this Fairy King. Everything's Earth. Why not try it? We have this Photon Power Operative and Tin Archduke. This one negating flip effects, but this one lowering attacks. So, Black Shiv of Corn, I've heard that's really good. This Silent Honors Arc Knights, pretty good card. Downward Magician, which would make this weak MX Saber Invoker and such stronger attacks. And we'll just keep Dire Wolf, that's good, because there's a lot of beast warrior or beast types, from the Hoot Cakes to the Mewfuel Kitties, as I call it. Sorry, I'm just horrible at pronouncing that. I would say the Exciton Knight, except for the fact that this deck just does a really good job of putting cards back into your hand and such, so you're probably not going to want that. Maybe you want the Mace Stroke. Maybe you want maybe the Abyss Dweller to stop your opponent. Maybe you want Cowboy for the 800 damage, since this deck does a bad job of getting perfect OTKs, but just doing close. Since we got a lot of level 4s, let's move on to level 3s, and we'll go on. Maybe you want this for just a beat stick. Maybe you want Leviathan, since it's controlled, and it allows you to put a card in the grave if you want it. Maybe you want Alucard, so you can pop a card like I do. Maybe you want the Mega Equipped Engineer to protect your queen. And maybe you want Zenmaines to pop one of your opponent's cards, Fortune Tune to recycle itself. It's just lots of cards. So now we've got ourselves 15 extra deck cards plus 9 other ones that we want to try and use. So let's try and narrow this down. Well, figuring that the queen can recycle the queen and the field spell puts the queen back, we probably only need 2 queens. Looking at the rest, since we do have this queen in the field spell, we won't need the pure stat power of this pearl. Other cards you probably won't need. You probably are not going to need both of these guys. In fact, the way that your deck works, you probably won't even need either one. So we'll just put them down here for later in case we want to think about them. We're probably going to want some more rank 3s so that in case if we don't want to make these, we can just have some power in here. So we might stick that in. We might stick that in. We might stick that in. Just looking at this, we might want this for the extra damage. Just looking at this extra deck. Alright, so what else do we have in here? We've got pretty much everything we could want. We probably don't need both of these. So we could probably take out one of these if we wanted to for like a Mace Stroke. So let's say we take out the Fairy King. We could put in Mace Stroke, and let's just call that good. Now looking at this extra deck, what kind of cards are we probably not going to need in the main deck? Well, this card's going to help us with the back row, but MST will also help us, so we're probably going to want to keep that. This Direwolf and Zenmaines are going to help us get rid of big monsters, so we're probably not going to need all of the Deep Prisons and Mirror Forces. Also, we're going to be able to use cards like the Black Ship and the Shark Knight to help go against these monsters, so we're probably not going to need negate effects, so we could probably drop this down to 2, figuring we do have the 2 Medulce Knights. With all of these different cards, the T-Break's going to be good to stop traps, but we're probably not going to need necessarily both of these, these, so we could probably take out some more cards, like maybe let's just say we take out the Deep Prisons. We'll put those inside in case we have to face a deck like Synchro Spam, and then just voila, we've got ourselves a sample deck. We have built ourselves Pudding Cess, 2 Messengelados, 3 Magdalene, 3 Angels, 3 Owls, 3 Cats. Then we've got just some staple spells along with the Pot of Dualities to help find the Angel and the Cat. And then we've got ourselves the Tickets, Chateaus, and just some basic trap cards. Is this what everybody's deck is going to look like? No, this is just a simple way. What you can do after this is make sure you hit save, shuffle it up a little bit, and then just look at the first 5 cards. Are you happy with that hand? Pot of Duality would let you search for these 3 cards. Would you be happy with that? Maybe, because I mean you could get this, and then you could start doing plays on your next turn. Then you can just keep hitting shuffle and sort, so you can keep getting new hands, and you look at it again. Is this hand a good hand in your opinion? You get 2 of the Fiestas and stuff. Do you not like the 2 Fiesta? Because, I mean, let's see. We can just recycle it, right? So we could just take this card out if we didn't want it. Look at this deck again. Alright, now we're down to 39 cards. How can we make it go back up? We could use cards like maybe this again. Or we could try using other cards. Maybe we want another one of these or another one of these. Just throw cards in, hit save, and then shuffle a bunch. You get a look at your next hand. See if you like this hand. If you don't like it, we can shuffle after deciding what you don't like about it. Just keep doing it. This might be a good hand because you can use this card to search for the Angel, and then use the Pot of Duality to find just random 3 cards, let's say, like one of these 3, and you're just good hands and such. So you just keep doing this, it'll just show you your consistency. After you do it for a while, you can just hit this little exit thing, go to the testing against an AI or an actual person. You can just, let's say we're going to test against this random gadget deck, and we're just going to start. Let's see. Random cards we get, we draw this little hand right here. We got our cat, our owl, this ticket, Pot of Duality. Let's just go Pot of Duality since we need a monster in the grave. We can just see what we'll get. We end up drawing the MST, Medulce Knights, or Torrential Tribute. Since we have no summon negation, we're probably going to go for Torrential Tribute. This is just like a sample video thing, so we're just going to set a bunch of cards so we can hopefully protect that Torrential Tribute. We'll end our turn and we'll let our opponent go. The opponent will use MST. He gets lucky and hits the Torrential Tribute. Starts doing stuff. We can use our cards, but we probably won't. We'll just see what they do. The AI, sadly, is not the brightest bulb in the pack, but that's just not the point. The point here is just to test your consistency. So we've got this going off, we stop their back row, and we draw some cards. So we could activate our spells and start doing stuff. Since we know this monster has 12 defense, we just activate our field spell. We can activate our ticket, summon our cat, use the cat to summon the owl, and we can just start doing some attacks. So we go to the battle phase, we attack that, and we'll just attack directly with this, and voila, main phase 2, since we don't want to keep these out probably. We can go in here, we could special summon something, like let's say we want to special summon the, I don't know, Zen mains. That'll let us sit there for a couple turns and not have to worry about things. So we can end our turn. Letting the opponent do stuff, they just go gadget for gadget, just kind of just pass their turn since there's not much else you can do. Next turn we can set this, we can maybe turn this to attack mode, battle phase, attack that. Since it doesn't appear that the opponent has very many good cards right now, we could maybe overlay into this thing. Since it'll get a lot of attack instantly, thanks to there being so many materials, we can end our turn. And we've got the protection of this Mirror Force now. So the opponent sets a card and we just continue, go off. Normal summon this angel, so getting the angel's effects and such. And then it just shows you the massive explosiveness or the consistency that you managed to get with this deck. How much just wonderful things you could get. You could just start summoning stuff. You could summon the, let's say, you need this, and this card gets summoned, there's no monsters in the grave, so it gets lots of attack, they use all these cards, and just effects go. Is that just going to be how lucky you are every single game? Probably not, but remember, this is, again, just testing. You can add anything to your hand. Why don't we add this? And we could go off again, but I feel like we're safe, so we can just wait a turn. I'm sorry, this might be getting a little redundant, but I'm just trying to show you consistency, how people could test. Set the Mirror Force. Normal summon the Mad use its effect. We can go searching for stuff. We can go looking for, let's say, the Angel. And we can use cards like this card, letting us summon everything, get some cards out, use effects, get more cards out, summon this thing in attack mode. Yeah. You know, it's just the deck. It does things for you. You know. You can go to your grave and banish something that you might think will hinder you later. Summon more stuff. Maybe search for something that you'd want. So let's say we want this Knights, even though we do have monsters in the grave. We could special summon stuff like the Queen. Just so many things you can do. Put this card back, maybe put this card back. No, we don't want those in our hand. We can put these cards back to the opponent's deck. Ticket will let us summon something. We'll probably want to summon something we can use, so maybe we'll summon this thing. That way we can get this fruitcake off the field. We can activate this if we want to recycle our graveyard back to the deck. Special summoning stuff. I mean, there's just so many things you can do. Just to kind of quick, hopefully end off the stool, we'll just summon this thing. Just do some quick, hopeful damage. Hopefully push for this little game. And then we can just end this little duel. Going back to this deck edit thing, maybe there's cards we didn't like. So when we were playing the game, we realized that we just hated having, let's say, this Mirror Force, because it didn't do anything in that duel, so we can throw it down here if we want to try something else. Maybe we are really liking on this D Prison, so we can just, right there, we got ourselves 2 D Prison in there. Since we're liking it more Mirror Force, just do some shuffling, look at the first hand, 2 Pot of Dualities. Maybe you don't like the 2 Pot of Dualities, maybe you want to take that out for another Mirror Force. Shuffle again, keep going, look around, and this hand looks pretty good. I mean, you can search for that for the Angel, just so many things. When you're content with the list, you just go out, you find a random person in the multiplayer, and you're good. I was just trying to do a little quick video, just trying to explain how to build a deck in general. You can do a lot more things. You can look up lists online if you want You could just type in Medolce deck list if you were building Medolces, or Insector deck list if you're building Insectors. And we just hope that you can find some good things about good decks that you want to build, and hopefully just go uphill from there. I hope this video was helpful. If there's anything else I can help you with, maybe try and make you understand the game more, just post it in the comment section below. I will be working on the next part of this how to play and actually focus more on turns, since you did get to see a little example of a duel, and hopefully then you will understand this game a lot more. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and Team Pointy Star, yeah.